We are going to go at a breakneck pace today. It is the happy place. Welcome this morning. Inchstones, I know I haven't done one in a couple of days. I have all the production notes, so we will be recording them. We go through the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day. And I want to share with you, too. I've got my man, Roy Tuscany, and he has High Fives Foundation, and this foundation is unbelievable, helping spinal cord injury and life-changing injury victims to be able to experience extreme sports and kind of get back on their feet, which is amazing. And it's the High Fives Foundation, highfives.org, highfivesfoundation.org. You could check it in the profile, but I've been getting my butt kicked a lot as a parent, and my mom was so amazing with my brother and I call her my mama, and she would always say a couple of things. My pops would say a couple of things. You guys have heard me talk about my pops, but my mom would always say, like, whatever starts out right ends up right. And I was like, that is the most elementary thing that I've ever heard in my life. It would frustrate me a lot of times because I would be like, well, what about the way that it ends, Mom? And she would always say that whatever starts out right ends up right. And so God was on me this morning all about how you start. And so it's not about like the justifying, and this is what I've done a lot of times. Well, I was able to get to this point, but he backed it off and help me to realize, well, how did you get there? What was the foundation of it? And if we lay that foundation, then we can build on it. But if we build our house on the sand, I tell you, it's not going to come around, and it's not going to work very well. So the corresponding proverb for the corresponding day is August 14th, and it's Proverbs 14. And these Inchstones are, just think of this as like whatever starts out right. So when we're thinking about how we want to start it, that foundation will be for what we build all the rest on. So be conscious of the foundation that you build on. And this frustrated me, when I was a kid, but what I found is that it gave me a foundation personally, professionally, spiritually, financially. And it also, too, like right in line with what we've talked about, in the past, or even my book, which is right up in back of me, which is called The Vibe. It wasn't the energy that you brought into the room. It was the way in which people felt when you left. But that came from a foundation. That came from a foundation of my heart set, which was my belief system, my mindset, which was my intentions, and my skill set, which was simply my actions. And so when you put those things in line, you have an irresistible vibe. And I had that experience with Harlan Schillinger yesterday, the godfather of legal marketing. We had a podcast scheduled. I checked at 9:05 and he wasn't on. So I just called him and I said, hey, would you like to reschedule? And as we began to talk, you could tell that he was kind of diffused. He was having fun with the conversation. And then I just asked, do you have time now? And he said yes. And he cleared his calendar at the time. And we had one of the most amazing episodes yesterday, episode 485. If you get a chance to be able to watch or listen to Harlan, he is unbelievable. So I want to jump right in. We generally do the commercial, but not going to do the commercial this morning for the Vibe Room. If you haven't been to a live version of the podcast, which is the Vibe Room, it is coming. The dates are going to be released, and it's going to be phenomenal. So what starts out right ends up right. That's my mom's simple side. So I was thinking, like, how should I start then? And in Proverbs 14, it talks about this. So when in verse 1, this is crazy because in verse 1, 11, 19, and 20, it talked about building a firm foundation. Well, again, when you hear these kind of things, don't build on the sand, build a firm foundation. Make sure everything, that you really do it right at the beginning. Well, what is right? And so it ran down these. The next one was integrity. So integrity is just being the same as you are in the dark as you are in the light. And imagine if, when no one was watching, that you got a chance to be exactly the same. Now, I failed at this the other day as a dad because everyone happened to be watching, but my son got hurt during a basketball game, and I was old school dad. Rub some dirt on it. Get up, boy, no problem. And all the dads and moms were like, oh, is he okay? And I was like, he's fine. Get up. And even halfway through the game, I was telling my son, hey, I was yelling from across the court, you need to go in the game. And everyone was like, are you sure? He seems like he's hurt. And I said, I know my son. He's fine. He's going to be fine. We got home later that night, looked at his ankle. His ankle had blown up. He had a really bad sprain, and he's still been off it to this day. So I was an idiot. I didn't do well, and I had that happen with my daughter the other day too. I was taking care of her hair, and we started talking, and she asked me or she didn't ask me. This was the thing. She told me a story about a friend, and I just told her, the girl has been consistent, so don't get mad at her. It's, you got to take responsibility for this. I thought I was teaching her a lesson as a dad, and I just saw tears well up in her eyes. And those tears, I asked her, I said, what's going on? And she's like, I don't feel like you're on my side. And I was like, man, I failed as a dad again. So all these failures, and some people are like, no, you're okay. No, it's okay to fail. But what I want to do is I want to make sure, reading this in verse 2, 12, and 34, that I'm the same in the dark as I am in the light. And hopefully I won't be in the dark. I won't be a bad dad like I was for my son and my daughter also. And the next one that I read about in Build a Firm Foundation was humility. And humility is in verse 3 and 9 in Proverbs 14. And this is one of the toughest things. I mean, humility, because I had to eat crow. I had to tell all the parents like I was an idiot. But I think that if you call it and, you invite discipline, it can help out. What about being willing to do the dirty, unnoticed work? And that's in verse 4 and 23, telling the truth. This seems like something that we should all do anyway, but it's something that had to be reiterated all the time. And the truth will set you free. That's what my mom would say, and a lot of parents would say. But imagine that, just telling the truth in verse 5 and 25. And seeking wisdom. My mom would always be on this she would say, if you could have anything in your life, simply seek wisdom, because wisdom is the right use of knowledge. The beginning of wisdom is the fear of God. And if you fear God, it means you respect him. And if you respect him, you spend time with him. So if you spend time with God, he'll give you the right use of knowledge. Then that knowledge that comes in, you'll know how to use it. When you get knowledge, it'll bring understanding. Understanding will bring insight. Insight will bring instruction. Instruction will bring discernment. Discernment will bring discipline. Discipline will bring strength. And strength will lead you right back to having a respect or a fear of God. And so imagine that, just seeking that wisdom. And he reiterated this in verse 6, 16, 24, 33, and 35. Keeping good company is something that my friend Will, his mom, said all the time. And this was a major one, is just be conscious of the friends that you keep, right? Be conscious of the friends that you keep. And that's in verse 7. Prudence, which as a kid in high school, when I would look at prudence, I didn't think this was a cool word. I hated the word. I didn't understand it, but it's just thought of the future. And it's about prudence in verse 8, verse 15, 16, 17, and 18. And it's just thought of the future. If we would stop, pause, and ask ourselves, okay, what's the foundation that I'm building for the future that I want? What starts out right ends up right, as my mom would talk about, right? And so in verse 10, it hit on reveling on your own path. And see, no one else is going to share your joy. They're going to get excited for you sometimes, but your joy is your joy. Your path is your path, and get excited about that. And it goes back to work in your land. Work in your land. What were you purposed to do? And you're exactly where God needs you, because if he needed you someplace else, he'd have you there. And I hear my pops' voice in that. And I always said oh, Pops, you're talking these things. And I end up becoming them also. In verse 13, it talks about his will, his plan, and his timing. Probably one of the most frustrating things that you'll find in your entire life is when you realize that it's his will, it's his plan, but it's his timing. And it'll never generally come on your time, and it won't come in the package that you want. In verse 14, it talks about being faithful. In 21 and 31, gracious and humble, or being gracious and having humility. In verse 22, it talks about love and faithfulness. In 26 and 27, know who you serve. Know who you serve. In business, know who you serve. In your marriage, know who you serve. In your family, know who you serve. In every aspect of life, know who you serve. And when you do know that, you know what they desire. And when you're serving your clients, what Harlan said to me yesterday is he said, find out where people consume their information and then give them more of it. It's pretty simple. I paraphrased him and I probably bastardized it, but in verse 28, it says, be great to people, right? Be great to people always. In 29, it's have patience and grace. And in verse 30, be full of peace, right? And so, or actually 35, it's in verse 35 is full of peace. So look at this aspect, right? So as I go down the list, and I'll hit these again just quickly, is build a firm foundation. Okay, so how do I build a firm foundation? Have integrity, humility, be willing to do the dirty, unnoticed work, tell the truth, seek wisdom, keep good company, practice prudence, revel in your own path. It's his will, it's his plan, it's his timing, so give it up. Be faithful, be gracious and humble, be full of love and faithful. Know who you serve, be great to people, have patience and grace, and simply be full of contentment and peace. And so as I was listening to this with my mama, it goes right back to it. Whatever starts out right ends up right. And imagine if you built your house on those points there, and it's given to us in Proverbs 14. And it literally is like rapid fire today. So when you go through, what I would invite you to do is take out the word, whatever version you have, and don't do it from a religious sense. Do it from a relationship sense. And also think about it, even if you just apply it to business, even if you just apply it to your relationship, what I want you to do, I'm going to challenge you to do today, is sit down and read Proverbs 14. And when you do, all I want you to do is write down one verse that hits you. So what hit you in your heart? What verse spoke to you? And then ask yourself, why did it speak to me? Like, what did it make me think of? And then ask yourself, how can I apply that in today, right now? I could tell you with all these points, I mean, there's a lot of things that you can hit, but that's just my interpretation. So it's been my honor, my pleasure. It's been another episode of Inchstones. Tune into us, subscribe on Spotify, on YouTube, on Apple. Leave a comment. It means the world, and share it with all of your friends. The Vibe Room is coming soon. Secret Knock is coming soon. The #1 networking conference in the world that you can't go to unless you're invited, and the co-host happens to be your friend right here with Mr. Greg Reed. So we're going to be doing that September 11th and 12th in Las Vegas, and in March 2025, we're doing it in San Diego. Keep your eyes open for the Vibe Room. Also, have a wonderful day. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.
On my mind, I got to shine, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again, make no mistake.